Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, Phoenix was saved by a tweet Saturday night as a loss, an ugly loss, was taken over by a big trade. We'll break down the ramifications of Luka Doncic to the LA Lakers on both the Western Conference standings as well as the trade market, and the Suns aren't escaping a closer look at those games either. Next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Monday. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button, do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done, become an everydayer, and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA when you do to get $20 off your first purchase. Joining me as always from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling Sunday afternoon after an earth-shaking NBA trade? Ben Garcia.
I feel good. I'm great. I'm like, other than the Suns' arch nemesis getting Luka, like that sucks, but I could be a Mavericks fan. I could be our buddy Nick on Locked On Mavs. That trade got sent to me last night in one of my Twitter group chats with my buddies. And I looked at it and I did a double take, and they like to sometimes trick each other with fake. So I clicked on Shams Charania, his profile, 5 times. I was like, this is the real Shams. And then someone commented he got hacked. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. He got hacked. And then he tweeted out the details of the trade. And then ESPN tweeted about it. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way this is real. It's real. And a little bit of karma for the Dallas Mavericks fans who, even on social media, they were poking some fun at the Phoenix Suns using a Luka picture. And Devin Booker had a nice little comment towards that, but just insane. How did you hear about it?
I just saw it come up, same way as you. I think it was just the disbelief. And yeah, I was so dumbfounded because it had just there was no evidence or inkling or anything. And obviously everybody has probably processed the instantaneous moment of it. We know it's real now. And I've just been trying to kind of wrap my mind around it. I guess, though, to pull it to a Suns thing, we'll talk about the trade market kind of ramifications here. And then we will circle back to the 2 games that the Suns played because we haven't talked since those happened. But I don't know. I think that Luka staying on the Mavs would have been pretty damn bad for the Suns as well. I've seen that from a lot of people. Of course it's the Lakers. And it's the Mavs beat the Suns in both 05 and 2022. Or sorry, they played the Suns in both 05 and 2022. And they beat them in 06. And those were pretty memorable. Could have gone either way. 2 of them went against the Suns types of series. The weird thing about the Suns-Lakers thing is, LA is kind of the big brother, and I get that, whether it's the Dodgers or, the Rams killed the Cardinals in the playoffs a couple years, but, I get that part of it. That's kind of our rival city. But Dallas has had the Suns' number also. So I don't know if I really am, and even this season, I think both teams are probably pretty on equal footing. So I guess obviously I'm always thinking of stuff from a Suns standpoint, duh. But at the same time, I don't know how much I feel like this is big picture getting me in my feelings, or even just in the here and now making me reconsider a lot. I sort of think the Suns are just off on their own island. They got to deal with both sides of this, but I don't know how much this changes.
I would much rather Los Angeles Lakers fans never get a never star in their life than the Dallas Mavericks fan base get 6 more. It really just from that perspective. And also the
just
Mavericks
them getting another star, just them getting to wag that in front of everybody's faces again.
Yeah.
Aren't the Suns kind of that now though too? in
I
a
don't
way.
think the Suns.
I mean, it's not on par. Of course, the history, you can't compete. I'm not trying to say the Suns caught up, but just right now, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler. That's 4 guys. The Lakers haven't had one since AD 6 years ago. So
Butler hasn't happened. Well, yeah, but the issue with the Lakers
but he wants to come here.
The Suns, outside of the Bradley Beal thing, which is completely blown up in their face.
Sure.
The Kevin Durant deal, this was something I just did a quick stream last night because I was so dumbfounded. But the Suns trade for Kevin Durant, I've never been on the aisle of, well, you gave up way too much. Like, maybe I was always like, yeah, maybe you did. Now I'm firmly on like, oh yeah, that was a bad trade. There is no world where Kevin Durant gets 4 first-round picks, 3 pick swaps, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder. Then they flip him for 5 second-round picks, and then Luka Doncic goes for this. Now, this is a one-off. This is to relate it to the Arizona style of things. Is David Johnson a second-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins years ago, where they only called one team? But yeah, I would much rather the Lakers.
Except if DeAndre Hopkins was Jerry Rice, right? Like,
yeah. Even that doesn't do it justice. It would have to be like he was a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, but he'd have to be like a top 15 player wide receiver of all time. Like Luka right now is a top 5 player in the NBA. Last year, I thought he was flirting with being the best player in the NBA. Given he still obviously hasn't surpassed Jokic, but I mean, him and Ant, and like the frustrating thing for me from like the Suns' perspective as well is I really like watching Luka play. I think it's a ton of fun. I don't hate the Mavericks. I never have. It sucked what they did to the Suns, but like right? You kind of have an affinity for Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves. And it's kind of hard to be like, oh, it's kind of fun to watch them. I'm not a Mavericks fan, but it's kind of fun to watch them. I now despise Luka Doncic because I hate the Lakers that much. I was a big LeBron guy. He goes Lakers. I hate the Lakers now. So that's where I go with it, was just like, man, that sucks. Like, I can't even like his game anymore. And of course,
I haven't liked Luka's game in a few years.
I love Luka's game.
I think that it's gotten a lot slower and more methodical and more predicated on getting contact and the kind of cheap foul drawing. When he was coming out of, obviously, we don't need to rehash the real Suns angle of all of this, which is the draft 7 years ago. But like when he was coming out, I thought he was like a freaking, his speed, his quickness,
were Luka
his
over
angles.
DA, right?
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
Really? But you were also were a draft guy. Now, I'm not. I wasn't. I was a U of A fan at the time.
You're bringing, like, I don't go here anymore, Ben. I swore it off, especially now that DA is not a member of the team. This is my single biggest battle with Suns fans, the history of covering this team, which is going on, 8 years now. I can't talk about this.
I was scorned from Dragon Bender.
I'm saying it's bad for me. It was,
well, no, good for you that you called it out.
People really got mad at me.
Oh, well, whatever. I couldn't care less about that. Because for me, I was a big DA guy over Luka because I was scorned from Dragon Bender, and I was also a big U of A fan. But this is the other thing with the Lakers as well is, of course, the team I hate the most got the player that owns the Phoenix Suns. Like, has made them, if you want to talk about big brother, little brother, like that freaking sucks, man. Like, that is just awful. Now, are they going to fail to build a team around him? Probably. I don't think that this year they are necessarily title contenders, but Kyrie Irving has a player option at the end of the year. Do you think he wouldn't go with the Lakers? I think he might. So Kyrie, Luka, and LeBron, like, that worries me. But just general reaction to it, man, I was just like, if the Phoenix Suns, I'm sorry, if the Los Angeles Lakers can steal Luka, and that's what they did, they just stole him. The Phoenix Suns, I don't care, with 2 hands tied behind their back, should be able to get a disgruntled Jimmy Butler, but that's a topic for another segment.
The next one. But before we get there, Dallas is 26-23 right now. The Lakers are 28-19. The Lakers have actually been playing pretty well most of the year, but especially lately. This is a nuclear bomb on their team. They have no defense. They were one of the better defenses in the West but so was Dallas. So, I don't know. How much better or worse do you think that these two teams that are currently both ahead of the Suns in the standings are going to get with this move?
In the future, I think that the Lakers are going to be awesome.
Well, no, I'm talking about this season.
Yeah, but right now, I don't worry about the Lakers very much because yes, Luka's a bigger player, but AD was really big, so you are getting significantly smaller. LeBron and Luka play about the same amount of defense right now at their stages in their career. Anthony Davis should have won the Defensive Player of the Year award last year, but he didn't. So the Lakers, it's so funny because I'm upset about the trade and the Mavericks and Lakers, but like this year, I actually do think it is a really strong move for the Mavericks because AD will come into the fold. They'll be better defensively. Now they've got to figure out how to get guys in that fold to help their offense, but I think it stinks for the Suns as a whole because the Lakers are already ahead of them, and I don't think they're just going to bottom out. But I think the Mavericks are going to get better and compete for a championship just this season. Down the road is different, but that's kind of where I saw it. What about you?
Yeah, I think in the regular season, the Lakers will go down and the Mavericks will stay pretty even. I'm high on the AD fit in terms of him getting to play with the center. And what Kyrie can do, that Mavericks team does not have enough offense to be a championship contender to me at all. So we'll see if they can make another move, but they were already relying on two guys. They just got rid of one of them. So I just don't see how that maps out for them. So I don't think, again, to come full circle on it, like the existential dread of the Lakers getting a guy that you're going to have to worry about for 10 years, 2 years after the Spurs just got that, that is a bummer as a Suns fan. But like, the here and now, I mean, the Suns have their own problems to sort out, and I don't think that this necessarily changes a ton about how I'm feeling about the West, considering we're talking about teams that are 5th and 8th. We aren't even talking about the guys 1 through 4. Those teams are the ones I'm still worried about if I'm, James Jones, Matt Ishbia, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. Let's talk about the trade deadline where the Suns can maybe get a little closer to even with those teams next. First, today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Are you looking for tickets to your next big event, a concert, a comedy show, a sports game? Finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache, but with Gametime Picks, it's never been easier. Let's talk about how it works. With Gametime Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals, so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. We've all been using Gametime Picks here on the Locked On Podcast Network for a while now. Ben even has it on his phone as he sometimes shows off. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. You could grab a super deal even with the label right there on the screen for you for a prime seat at the best value on the whole app. Anywhere in the world, anywhere at any event, the super deal. And the seat view feature is a game changer so that before you hit buy, you can see exactly where your seat and the view will look like within the venue. A little picture. Here's what your angle will be. Here's what the height will be. All that sort of stuff that we all kind of dread and worry about when we're not quite sure if we've never been somewhere before. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA when you do to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Alrighty, Ben, let's keep it rolling here. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns daily newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. We've cleared 1,300, I believe, but we are still going strong. We need more of you actual everydayers to check in over there. We've got content coming for you. National writing, Suns news, stay up to date with the podcast. Best of all, it's free for you. And some fantasy advice, which, I mean, typically, look, you actually you do got to pay for that. So that might be the best part of it all. All right. So, I'll just start on the trade deadline side of things, Ben, by saying that I think that this trade, I will compare to one particular NBA trade in recent history that is going to sound a little bit off, but I'll explain why I think it's the same. Rudy Gobert to the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you go back to that summer of 2023, the Jazz blew it up. Minnesota had just gotten their new executive in place from Denver. They were hyped and up and high on what Anthony Edwards was going to develop into, and they felt like they were ready. Also, you had Danny Ainge on the other side, who tends to just pull a rabbit out of the hat every time he makes a trade. People thought maybe that Rudy Gobert trade, where 4 first-round picks changed hands, as well as Walker Kessler, who's a promising player, for a, fringe all-star, one-way limited player. Luka Doncic doesn't fit that description. He's an MVP candidate. He could be the best player in the world someday. But where it's similar is that Rudy Gobert trade did not end up setting the market for Damian Lillard, for whoever you want to fill in the gaps with. I don't think that this Luka Doncic trade suddenly means that when guys are headed towards supermaxes, when the Lakers come calling, whatever category you want to put this trade in, I don't think you can use that to make the argument that the price has gone down or we're going to see more trades like this or anything like that. I think that this was a one-off featuring a GM and Nico Harrison over in Dallas, who clearly was very confident in what he was doing. We'll see if he proves to be right or wrong. They only talked to one team. He had his own ideas. I think this is going to be just as crazy 5 years from now as it feels right now, not a sign of things to come.
I would have to disagree with you. And here's the really positive side for Luka Doncic being traded for what is seen to be a heist. We know AD is good, but he's 31 and he's got injury concerns too. This is, I think, really good if you're a Suns fan. This part of it here, which is when teams don't want to pay the supermax for an all-worldly player, and we've already seen a couple of organizations shoo away from the second and the first apron. Nuggets with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the Timberwolves with Karl Anthony Towns, and who knows, maybe Nickeil Alexander-Walker in a couple of months here. As well as now with the Dallas Mavericks that at least played a little bit of a role. If you're the Phoenix Suns and you have an owner that is flushed with cash, these type of players might become more available to you as time progresses. Now, do I think it's going to be at this price tag? No. I mean, one first round pick for Luka. Well, I just mean one first round pick for Luka is ridiculous. But do I think, especially with the way Kevin Durant has fared with the Suns, which he's awesome, but the team itself isn't, I do think prices are going to start to come down at least a little bit for these superstar players. Do you kind of get what I'm saying there? Meaning,
no, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but
really?
I don't. I get what you're saying, that players might become more available because you explained it. I think you're right. Teams want to shy away from the second apron. That we've seen. But why would the price go down? You didn't say anything to say why.
Well, if teams aren't willing to pay their players, at some point they're going to have to take less on the market from other teams who know that they're not going to pay that player. You see what I'm saying? Like if they're not going to pay, they're not just going to let him walk for nothing.
But this Luka trade is the first time that's happened. Because with Cat, for instance,
Cat
the
went
Wolves
for
got a lot, even though I mean
they got more than this. They got more. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they got more than Anthony Davis, but they got a decent return. Nobody was sitting there saying like the Wolves.
I meant for Cat.
Screwed it up.
Yeah, Wolves got fleeced, which isn't what happened. In fact, I made the argument.
And so then
the Wolves actually did
you
better.
have, Caldwell Pope they had to let walk. That's a different sort of example. We'll see what if the Suns ever get into that situation, or Boston or Milwaukee. But I guess I just don't. I think if you're talking about players who are incredibly valuable and teams are cheaping out of it, I think that part of why teams are cheaping out of it is to utilize the opportunity to reset and get a big bundle of crap to go forward with, not just to sell really, really, really low. Otherwise, they're probably not a super max level player in the first place.
Yeah, so let me ask you this.
KCP isn't, right? Or
No, he's
some of those
like an $80 million guy or whatever.
It's a little hard because we don't have a ton of examples yet. So I get we're kind of like being a little hypothetical here, but like to bring it back to the Suns, right? Like that's sort of what's happening with Jimmy Butler. right? Like that is a version of how you could look at the Jimmy thing, is to say it is clearly over a contract.
Yep.
Miami is over the first apron, I believe, but not over the second apron, and they don't want to prolong their financial misery with an aging player who's sporadically available and all that sort of stuff. Like, I don't think this Luka situation and how Dallas handled it tells me about, forget this Jimmy thing because it's already been playing out, but the next Jimmy Butler or something like that. I really do just see it as a one-off, because everybody's sitting here saying the Mavs were stupid. So how can the Mavs be stupid, but also this is going to dictate the future? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I agree with that. Just because I know we're running out a little bit of time here. Do you think this changes Jimmy Butler's price tag? And do you think it maybe scares the Heat off away from Bradley Beal, or maybe not at all? Maybe they're just willing to take Brad for 3 first-round picks and they take on that contract because, I don't know, they don't want to lose him for nothing. Do you think that this changes any of that? Does it make you believe he's going to be here more so than maybe you did yesterday before this trade went down? Or nothing?
What's the similarity? What's connected about it? Why would they affect each other?
The money aspect of it. Do you want to let him walk for nothing? Like, and I understand.
But here's even the other distinction I would make, is that I don't think that we have not heard the word apron or tax associated with why Dallas balked at the idea of paying Luka Doncic. We have heard his health, his availability, his defensive ability.
We haven't heard that, because what kind of a press release would that be if a team says they're scared to run away from this? They're running away from the second apron, because we all agree. Yes, Luka has some conditioning concerns, and he might be slightly overweight for an NBA player, like, whatever, right? But like you see those two things with Luka, and then you go, all right, cool. I'm gonna go get brittle Anthony Davis, who had some weight issues before he went to the Lakers. That's what I mean. Like, they could just, it's such a stupid alibi that they could be covering up for that. I don't know. I mean, why would the owner sign off on this? Like, I get one stupid person making all these bad decisions, which, by the way, he's now traded or lost Brunson, Kristaps, and Luka in back-to-back years. So, like, I get that, right? But I just don't.
He traded Porzingis and then made the conference final, so I don't think he regrets that one, but I hear you.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, of course, when you talk about
the Suns?
No, he didn't. That's what I'm saying. They got rid of Porzingis, and then they went to the conference finals. Kind of helped them. So I don't think that one actually probably hurts, and he plays like half the season. But I'm not trying to say that when you talk about money, of course, those things aren't lingering there. But right now, I'm looking at it. The Mavs they're under the first apron.
Mm-hmm.
This contract that would have been going into place would have been the summer of 2027, I believe, is when it would have. Or 2026 is when it would have started. Very few of their players are even under contract that long. So I really just don't think that this one is connected to all those other examples as closely. And I think that even if it was, I still would say that, again, if we're all laughing at the Mavs and we can't use it as an example, it has to kind of be one or the other. Either this was a mistake or this is the new normal. It can't be both. So I believe it is a mistake, and they really screwed up. And the Jimmy thing has nothing to do with it, in my opinion.
Everything is a mistake at first until other people do it. This had to be the first domino to drop so we can't say it's the new normal until we see someone else do it. Mm-hmm. And I do think that could be a possibility later on I can't. Would you have paid Luka a supermax and not thought twice about it?
Yes.
And not thought twice about it.
Why would you think twice?
I can't believe
I wouldn't think once about
podcasters. Well, I'm just saying, I can't believe two boneheaded podcasters who both have day jobs outside of doing this are like, yeah, I would have paid Luka. And this guy, I would have fired him. If he would have came to me with that trade and I was the owner, I would have fired him. That's crazy. It's crazy, man. I
do think there's going to be more that we hear. I think that the relationship between Dallas and, I'm not saying it will justify it. I'm not saying that. No. But I'm just saying I would agree with you, but clearly he got ownership to sign off on it, and something happened with the GM directly that led him to even get the idea in his head. So I think we'll learn more about why it happened. Nothing will justify it. Of course, you pay Luka Doncic the supermax. You pay guys that are half as good as Luka Doncic the supermax. Devin Booker makes the supermax. He's not as good as Luka. Carl Anthony Towns makes one. Bradley Beal makes one. These guys all get it.
Luka Doncic could have had the GM's family in a ransom situation with guns pointed to everyone's head. You still have to get more for Luka. 1 first-round pick. You can trade him. 1 pick, 1 first-rounder. I can't.
Well, they valued AD. That's really what it comes down to, and I think that's a mistake too.
AD. How do you not get Austin Reeves too? I don't even know if the money works at that point. And now I'm just talking nonsense. But like, how do you not get? If the Lakers were offered AD and Reeves for Luka, I would still do it. And they didn't even get Austin Reeves.
Yeah. They definitely should have gotten both first-round picks. I agree with you on that. And
this
then beyond that, I don't know.
Steve Keim levels of idiocracy. This is Ryan McDonough levels of idiocracy. Holy cow.
Good thing Ryan McDonough never had to handle the future of a, core superstar player. He never got far enough to even give Book the supermax, unfortunately for him. All right, let's talk about the games that were played by this Suns team on Friday and Saturday night and why they went so differently. Next. First, basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in awarded winnings, PrizePicks makes it easy and fun to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Here's how it works. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. This week, what do we got here? You know what's funny, Ben? Luka Doncic is in the ad copy here, and you're supposed to talk about what happens if he goes more on assists for the Mavericks. Unfortunately, that has changed.
Something tells me he's going to be under.
Well, the other part that we didn't even talk about is that Luka's not even playing basketball right now. It's kind of like when the Suns got Kevin Durant while he had a freaking knee sprain. But let's say in Suns world, you say Book is going to come out like a man on a mission after losing to Portland when they get the rematch on Tuesday. You go more on points. Let's say you go DA is gonna wilt like a flower. Let's go less on rebounds. That can be it. Or you can go up to 5 players, no matter what stat or what sport you set, the more or the less, up to 5 players. That's it. You versus your own knowledge. You versus those PrizePicks player projections. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Alrighty. Quick segment to wrap ourselves up here. We had 2 games over the weekend for the Suns, Ben. 130-105 win over the Warriors on Friday night in a nationally televised game where the second half went hard in the Suns' favor. And then a 127-108, almost identical score in the opposite direction, loss to the Portland Trail Blazers on Saturday night, where it was really the first half that went all sorts of out of the Suns' favor and led to a 15-point halftime deficit that they were not able to overcome. So I have an answer that kind of piggybacks off of what we discussed last week with the Wolves game. But what do you think was the biggest difference in why they lost to what we think of as a worse team, but beat, the hallowed Golden State Warriors?
There is a little bit of Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell to this Phoenix Suns team where they kind of play up and especially down to their opponents. And I thought that's what you saw last night with the Trailblazers. I mean, there also is the little additive of DeAndre Ayton's always going to give the Suns his 100% effort. Tumani Kamara looked good at times, but I think the biggest thing was like they just look tired. Like it looks like Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are playing a lot of minutes, even though in these last 2 nights they haven't. When you ask older Kevin Durant to play 30-plus minutes a night against the Warriors and then 30 the next night against the Blazers, like it's not going to work out very well. So I thought they just looked tired. and sluggish. Man, so many turnovers. Every time I looked up from my computer, the Blazers were on a fast break down the other end of the court. The transition defense was awful. And I think that all goes back to not really just effort, but tiredness.
Points was awful, right? Like
what was that?
Said. Giving them the transition opportunities was awful.
Sloppy passes, man. I mean, sloppy passes. You
nailed it. Portland had 29 points in the paint. 29 fast break points, 66 points in the paint, which, a lot of those means they're just converting them straight into layups.
Mm-hmm.
And there was that stretch in the fourth quarter where I believe Devin Booker had 3 straight turnovers. Mm-hmm. Just handing it to them. And I'm not even willing to give them the tired pass. Yes, it was the second night of a back-to-back. Yes, they had been playing a lot of minutes, but on Friday night, KD played 29 minutes in the win. Book played 34. And even in this game, I understand that they ended up sitting some of the very end because of, again, it was a blowout in the other direction, but KD was at 33, Book was at 35. This was, to me, again, to bring it back to that Minnesota game, it was a younger, athletic, physical team.
Yeah.
I just don't think they can handle it. I don't think they can handle it right now. And I don't know how many more examples we really need to kind of prove that to ourselves. Like, Book and KD had decent scoring games. Even Brad had a decent first half, I thought, and it doesn't matter when teams are able to just swarm you and get those easy buckets going the other way. Even like you mentioned with DA, they couldn't even handle like a freaking, Simons Ayton pick and roll. Like, what is that? Like the 35th best pick and roll pairing in the NBA or something? It wasn't Jokic and Murray. It wasn't like AD and LeBron. Rip, but what are we doing? It was Simons who, is kind of toiling over there in Portland, and then Ayton, who half the time
Simons was really good in the first half. Simons was really good in the first half. DeAndre Ayton, I mean, and I don't care if the Suns traded Ayton. I was over him. The Suns locker room was over him. I'm so past that. But Nick Richards kind of goes back to I like Nick Richards. He was rendered virtually useless against DeAndre Ayton last night, who Portland Trail Blazers fans a week or two ago were ready to run this guy out of town. So, my buddy said to me,
Richards all night, 0 of 4 from the field, 1 of 4 from free throw. This was Nick Richards' worst game.
My buddy said this to me yesterday, and I thought it was interesting, and I'm not sure how much I believe it. The Suns have the top 2 players in that game, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. Do the Trailblazers have the next 8?
I think you probably have to put Beal in there.
Okay.
Even
Beal.
with all his limitations.
Okay, we'll put Beal at 6, I guess.
Yeah,
5?
I mean, I don't know.
But is Ayton, Grant, Simons? Would you rather have Kleen? I'd probably say no. Scoot Henderson? I mean, are those guys all above guys on the Suns?
Yeah, I mean,
is that how?
I guess you would throw in on top of athletic and physical and young, deep. That's the other thing that the Trailblazers are that the Suns are not, right? They got to have Scoot and Sharp coming off the bench. Not to mention, I mean, Kleen didn't have his best game or anything. He had the traveling call at one point, and he's not exactly, developed yet, but he's a 7-foot monster you can just put out there to he'd be starting for the Suns, right? So, yeah, it's I mean, I don't even think Suns fans are surprised though, right? Like, Portland's given them trouble for a couple seasons now. Every time they play, it's just kind of the same story where they're everywhere, and the Suns just don't have an answer for it. So,
think they win tomorrow?
I don't know. Considering it's also on the road, I'm not feeling good about it. I mean, how could you?
We need another big trade for another superstar to block out this loss tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't feel good about it. I told you.
Levine
I told
can
you
get
last
traded
week.
on Tuesday, and then no one will talk about this.
Yeah, I told you on last week. I was like, hey, I think they have to go 8-2 in this stretch to make me feel better. Well, they've already lost 2, and I told you I didn't feel good about one of the Blazers games. I really don't feel good about the one tomorrow, but at least we're not Mavericks fans, right, guys?
There you go. That'll wrap
least
us
we're
up.
not
Hit
Mavericks
follow or
fans.
subscribe if you have not already. We'll have coverage of that game on Tuesday night for you. We'll also have one more episode between now and then. The deadline's Thursday, and then a home back-to-back on Friday and Saturday. A lot going on, not just in Dallas and LA. So keep it right here. Enjoy your Monday, and we'll catch you next time.